What do you want out of life?
I want to be hot, rich, and famous and never work a day again. No. Hey!
Hey, my name is Michael Zarek of Third Space Indy, and I was just laid off my job again.
And then they said to me, great job, but you're too sexy.
That's a little bit annoying.
Perfect. We can go from there.
Yeah.
I don't plan to stop doing Third Space Indy or put anything behind a paywall, but I could use some help. And here are some of my past guests to tell you why.
Just a disclaimer, we're gonna go down a rabbit hole.
I moved to Indianapolis and it absolutely changed my life.
I agree with you completely.
There's like so much to unpack there. I'm not trying to be rude, but there's times when it's just like,
oh no, I'm scared. And I was like, why? What are you scared for?
I love Indy for being Indy. Like it's
a collection of stories of people I've met, of things I've seen.
This is always a space for you to show up and we're waiting for you.
Yeah, check it out, it's nice.
You can have anything that you want in here.
It just is what it is.
And I feel like I do try to be like an authentic person.
So Indianapolis, like just the whole of the city. The whole city.
It is a flaming hot dumpster fire that is, I love it.
Right now, I spend about 25 hours a week working on Third Space Indy.
It's a weekly party, so he's there nonstop.
it is easier said than done, 100%.
Lots of coffee dates, worn down shoes, and time spent editing. So if you've ever enjoyed the podcast, enjoyed random clips or reels, or come to an event of mine, a couple of bucks could really help me out right now. So if you'd go to support.thirdspaceindy.com, I would really appreciate it.
You said that so beautifully, like the way you articulated that.
You just popped off and made this out of like scraps and you was like, oh yeah, I just felt like it.
Hey man, it's a good time, man.
Yeah. Yeah. Pump, pump.
Scared rabbit, they've got you boxed in. Old habit, you draw the curtain. Lonely only if they ever leave.
Hello, my name is Michael Zarek, and this is Third Space Indy. In 1989, a man named Ray Oldenburg wrote a book called The Great Good Place. And in this book, he coined a term called the third place. This describes a place that is outside of your work and outside of your home, that you can go, be with others, exist, and build community. So I've made it my goal to find people all over Indianapolis who are doing their very best to make these types of places. Today's guest is somebody who I have been aware of for a very short amount of time. We met at Macau, officially, which is the coffee and chocolate event run by Epicurean here. And since then, I have sort of followed them on Instagram, and I've really sort of enjoyed watching their personal journey, playing with gender, existing as a wonderful, joyful human being, and also just exuding fashion as they are in this very moment, which brings me to introduce today's guest, Doan.
Hi.
Yeah. How you doing?
I'm an artist, filmmaker, beginner drag performer, and I'm doing good. How are you?
I'm doing amazing. I'm so excited to be here talking to you on this slide at Spades Park. And you said you wanted to show off your outfit. So like describe what you're holding and what you're wearing.
A bag from Goodwill, pants from Goodwill, top from Akira, this scarf from Goodwill. I'm a very heavy thrifter. Bracelets from my friends. This gold Coach bracelet I found washed up on a beach in LA.
What?
And I was like, oh my gosh.
It's a what bracelet?
It's like a gold Coach bracelet.
Oh, so it's like nice.
Yeah, it's like a nice, and it was just in the sand. I have a gut feeling when I go thrifting, even if the clothing item isn't visible, like something in my heart will just tell me, like, reach your hand into the shelf. Like, even if it's not visible. And I find really good stuff. Every single time it's like a feeling, and I need to stop right there and reach my hand in.
The clothing piece is giving off an aura.
Yeah. And the same thing happened at the beach. I was like, look in the sand right now. I was like looking at the sky the whole day, and I was like, oh, I could feel, it's just, I don't think anyone's going to really believe me, but like all my best clothing pieces are because I have that feeling in my heart.
I believe you.
I don't know.
I don't see a reason not to.
I don't know. Anyways, I showed you my bag. Now I can put it behind me.
I just want to describe the bag a little bit. I want to describe the fit overall. So the bag is like brown with floral not engraving. What is the word? sewing? What's the
I don't
word?
know how to explain it. I almost left this bag behind, but then I kept turning around. It's the gut feeling again. I was like, you have to take it, and it's my most worn one.
And then you're wearing not platform heels. I need to know the word.
They're
Wedges?
Wedges?
That's the word.
I don't know.
And then you're wearing sort of darker jeans with like big old pockets, which are a cool form factor. And then you've got a brown top, which matches with the bag well. And then you've got a cheetah print scarf on.
And ocean seashell belt. I love the ocean. That's totally something that's part of my aesthetic. And then I don't know what it is about this like silk pattern, but my parents always grew up with like every Vietnamese household has these like big paintings with this type of pattern.
Oh,
so
I know what
I
you're
think
talking
that's
about.
just why I felt drawn to it. It just remind me of like my grandparents a
Yeah.
little bit. That's the fits.
So you said you're second generation.
Yes.
So you were born here?
Yes,
Where are you
I
from?
was born here. Oh, you can't not during Asian History Month. You can't ask that. I'm just kidding.
What city in the U.S.?
My family is from Vietnam. I almost was able to grow up in San Jose, but I think my dad's family immigrated to Indiana. My parents met at like a family member's wedding in San Jose, and my dad Googled like top 10 best places to raise a family, and Indiana came out higher at
That's
the
awesome.
time. So that's where
It
we're
was
born and
like-
raised.
It was like number 7 was San Jose, number 6 was Indiana. What
It's
city
like that
in
was the
Indiana?
coin flip, and I rue that day every single moment.
Wait, what city in Indiana though?
Fishers.
Oh, okay.
Fishers High School.
Okay.
It was when it was like flat and there was nothing, and now like Fishers is becoming like a mega city Carmel copy, which is like so strange to witness in real time, but it's cool.
And now you live over here in Windsor Park,
Yeah.
which is dope.
Yeah.
I want to talk about you as a drag king. This is not a term that I think the average person thinks about a lot, because obviously like you hear about like drag bingo, you hear about drag reading time, like that type of thing is in the news, but generally that's associated with drag queens. So for people who may not know what a drag king is, can you explain and talk about your experience starting that?
It's just drag king is just like hyper masculinity. Like a drag is I might not be the best person because I'm still learning about like the history, and I'm very new to this space, and so I'm just sitting back and seeing what I can absorb from people.
Mhm.
But you know, I think it's just an exaggerated performance of gender.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I in contrast to like drag queens, it's sort of like, oh, have crazy chest hair, have like
Yeah.
extremely sharp cheeks, and like a beautiful bushy mustache, like that type of thing.
My first experience ever seeing a drag king was I got like a full ride scholarship to go to O for You, which is out for undergrad, and it's
Mhm.
like a queer conference in New York. And New York is like where all the gay people are, and so I like they walked
Every
they
single one of them.
took us on a walking tour, and they were like, this is where Stonewall happened, and this
Mhm.
is these are like very important places to queer history. I was like and then they brought in drag performers at the night, which is so, I don't know if you've been to a conference before, but this is so different from the typical conference environment.
Oh, you mean just like any conference, but this
Just
is
any
like
conference. But this is like, they had a nice dinner for us, and I was like, wow, this was all because I'm gay. This is pretty cool. I like, and then they had a drag king come out, and his name was King Molasses. I remember he had like a pink feathery scarf boa, he had like a thick beard, really cool look, and like very suave personality. So I was like, oh, this is so exciting. And then a lot of people say that they should make a drag king version of RuPaul's Drag Race, and there is already. There's a few shows. One of them is King of Drag. King Molasses won the first season.
Yo.
I'm like, I got to see him, and then a year later he wins the first ever season. I was like, this is so cool, and that kind of set the trajectory for me.
yeah, like what about, so that was that your first experience with like drag king?
I knew about it, like I know about it. Typically, like the features are like thicker brows, but then you see like people mix and match these all the time. We just had Ciara Mist from Indianapolis
Yeah, I know that person.
go onto RuPaul, but their drag like in the local city, I see them do like drag king stuff too. They're very like fluid and like incredible. So I like, my perspective on gender is so blurred now because it's just what you name it.
Yeah, definitely. I love that you do that. I was telling you about your reel. I'm gonna say short form video because that is platform non-specific, where you were talking about like using your femme face to. So you sorry, let me back up just a second. You are an out trans Masc individual.
Yes.
Right. Trans masculine, meaning you were assigned female at birth, and now you use he, him pronouns.
Yes. He, because I'm him.
So good. So the reel that I'm thinking of is like you said, I'm using my feminine face to pay for my transition surgery, which I think is so good. And like I was telling the previous guest off camera that like my entire life I have like really hated gender roles, like this idea of like sticking to a singular existence in whatever way that means. Like it never made sense to me that like I had like G.I. Joe-esque things growing up, but like those are basically dolls that are just men. Like so like it never computed to me. And like I played video games, which are like so like obviously you associate video games with like men a lot, but like so many women play video games. It's like kind of like frankly, video games are like kind of a girly thing to do, and like but it doesn't mean anything.
Can I tell you a fun fact? Speaking of video games, there's this game called Movie Star Planet, and it had a up and coming rise during the time of like Club Penguin, Webkins. That was like my weapon of choice was Movie Star Planet.
Movie Star Planet.
And I had my main girl account, but I also created like a side boy account. And I would dress him up, and then I would go into chat rooms, and it was really fun. And then I don't know, the online game culture under there, you just had to be there to understand. But people would do things like type 1 2 3 to date, or they would just walk up to your character and be like, "Will you be my boyfriend?"
They did that in Club Penguin too.
Was that a Club Penguin thing?
Like it was.
You just had to be there to understand. I feel really strange explaining it, but like I think as a kid, like when I was like on my boy account. And like people were like, "Oh my god, boyfriend! Like you're so cute," and it's my character. You don't even know what I look like.
Yeah.
But that was probably the first sign. There were definitely signs.
It like activated like dopamine stuff that you'd never felt before.
Yeah.
Type thing.
I was like, this is fun.
So the end of the statement, I guess, is sort of like, what do you think about this idea of like escaping gender binaries and existing in a certain type of way, especially as somebody who deals with that daily?
I think a lot of our gender expectations stem from colonialism, and that sounds like a far reach to some people.
No, you're doing great.
But when you put groups into like gender categories, it makes it so much easier to control them and to like implement them into your country. Because you look at like so much of queer history was erased with like the Nazi book burnings and so many like colonization periods. We just lost so many books, and we still have records. When I went to the Midwest VSA like Vietnamese student conference, there was a keynote hosted by like a drag performer, and she was talking about how like I'm so bad at it. This is me showing like a failing history class, but I do remember her talking about like figures in Vietnamese history that like played with gender expression, like someone else that was assigned female and was known to like play with masculine expression and cut their hair and things like that. Existed for years and years of time. Asian culture, men wear dresses, all these things. Like it's even straight men like in Korea, it's very common to like touch up with like makeup throughout the day, like just touch up your foundation or tinted sunscreen, a little lip balm.
Yeah.
If you wear lip balm in the US as a man, you're like gay or something. It's like a whole thing.
Yeah.
And I have some thoughts about that as well too. Like even the straight Asian men that touch up their makeup still have homophobic attitudes, but that's just to show you the scope of reference for like all the different ways that femininity shows up in other cultures.
Yeah.
So it's not new to me.
And like in India, I don't know the term, I'm failing, but there's a term for like there is an explicit there's a language word, all words are language words, that explicitly like identifies a third or a fourth gender, which I think is really interesting. Like it's built into the culture in that way.
Future Michael here. I wanted to make sure I got this correct. So the term I'm referring to is Hijra, which is a officially recognized third gender that exists in Southeast Asia, so the India region, Bangladesh, and Pakistan.
Versus here, we like stick to such strict binary is the best word, like yes or no, or like ones and twos.
Right.
Yeah. I really appreciate that answer. Excellent start by just dropping that it's based in colonialism. I love that.
A lot of our issues are.
Truly. I want to talk also about, so you are like killing it in life by my perception. What?
Is this true? Is this real, chat?
by maybe it's just social media, like giving off all the good moments, but like I feel like you have recently, for lack of a better term, like bloomed as an individual. Like you have Hanibear shop, which we failed to mention so far, which is I'll let you talk about what that is. You have an agency for modeling ? Or just all things?
I got signed to a modeling agency,
and you're a fairly successful like just content creator in general. Yay. So why don't we go through each of those things in turn, starting with Hanibear, because I think this is like so cool.
Yeah, there's a lot of artists in like New York, Chicago, Asia, big cities that like do live doodle drawing booths, so people stand there. You get drawn into, and it's like it's different from a caricature because it's a more cutesy style, so it's quicker, and then it doesn't really offend anyone because I drew your eyes like little dots. It's like I don't even draw noses. I've had customers point that out before. I don't even draw noses, and then I dispense it out the little photo booth. And I think I've been doing this for about a year, and the sign that I felt like, oh my god, I've really made it is like, this is like my 4th box order of cards from Staples, and each box is like 500 to 1,000. It depends on how much I'm restocking, but it's like probably
the blank cards.
The blank cards. So I'm like, this is my like 4th time restocking. That means I've drawn like over 1,000 people in the city now.
In the past year?
And that's my low estimate. Yeah, in the past year.
That's crazy.
And then one of my customers told me she had a repairman come over who spotted the drawing on her wall and then said, is that a Hanibear drawing? And he said him and his partner got one too. Your repairman saw the drawing and recognized it. This means I'm in people's homes. I don't know. It's like maybe it's a small thing, but to me, it kind of blows my mind.
So you're, what's your most like frequent, we were talking about indie game market, but that's not where you're primarily doing this necessarily. Like, how do I phrase this? How are you like, where are you setting up your table and doing the drawings?
Wherever people want me to. Like, gay market definitely is like where my biggest crowd comes in because my whole audience is freaking gay. But like,
maybe even the repairman.
That's what I was thinking, because you said the repairman said partner. Girl or boy partner.
Hey, the word partner is supposed to be ambiguous intentionally.
And I do appreciate when like cishet people use the word partner too, because it kind of helps make it normal.
Yeah.
It doesn't automatically out somebody as like queer or trans.
I just have really enjoyed saying wife. It's like such a crisp word.
Do you like use it as a flex too? You're like, my wife, my wife, my wife.
I use it when I want people to leave me alone. It's like, sorry, my wife has to go to bed early. I'm staying home tonight.
Yeah, it's such a great like excuse to like leave something you're kind of tired of. It's like, oh, my partner, our cat.
Yeah, my cat needs me.
My cat needs me. You wouldn't get it.
So, but you also do. Have you been booked for a wedding or anything like that?
Yeah, I've been booked at a wedding. Shout out Janet.
Yo, Janet.
She said,
congratulations.
Janet Lovera. She said she was like a fan of the channel. And I was like, this is like so crazy. Like, I'm so happy to be part of this memory that like, hopefully this is like a one and done thing for you and you guys stay married forever. Cause I was like, I'm like, that's crazy. Cause then like every Christmas party, every birthday, I'll be there. Like, no, it's just, it's very meaningful to me that you chose to have me part of that, like, one-time memory.
When you do like a wedding, so you went, I'm just thinking of the wedding because it's the easiest example, because it's like a special occasion. You're doing the normal drawings for the guests? Are you doing a more zhuzhed up drawing for the bride and groom, and or non bride and bride, groom, etc.?
It's the same drawing. I keep it consistent.
That's funny. How'd you get started as like doing this type of art? Like little doodles.
I used to like fill sketchbooks like clockwork. Like I would stay up late drawing. my teachers would yell at me in class for drawing, but it was the same teachers that would keep my drawing pinned up on their wall. Like even now I still talk to my teachers. And I showed my dad like the ugliest Sailor Moon drawing that I made on my iPad, drawing like with my finger, and he's like picking it up and like he's very atypical from like an Asian dad in this sense, where he was like, this is really interesting, Gon, and he's like tapping the iPad and zooming around. He's like, yeah, you should make more of these. It's like, and I'm like, I'm like looking at the old photo and I'm like, this is so bad. But it's great that he did that because I kept drawing. And I wanted to go to school for animation. So I actually made it into San Jose State's animation program, which is like notoriously very competitive.
Now, if you were born there, maybe
if I was born there,
your life trajectory would have been different.
Right? I think about that all the time. But I also think everything turned out how it needed to. So yeah. I don't mind at all.
So what about modeling? First of all, the fit is fire today, as we said earlier. Which goes to show about modeling. So what is wait, is it a modeling agency?
Yeah.
It is. Okay. So what does this look like? I've never even considered.
I didn't even know either because I didn't even think this could be like a path for me. I saw like one of my classmates from high school was doing modeling stuff and I just Googled it. A lot of people ask, how do you get into this? Google, YouTube, and then do. Like it's such a free resource. I just Googled like that agency and then I applied to all the ones in like Indiana and the Midwest region. And I thought I was being pranked like when I got an email back, or like I just didn't believe this type of thing. Like I thought, okay, so when they emailed me, I think they were already ready to sign me on. And they were like, you just need to meet with one of our agents to get the paper.
Oh, they looked at a photo of you. They're like, this person has they have whatever it is.
5 digitals. And I actually thought the meeting was going so poorly because the agent representative was like Zoom calling and going through like the 5 photos I submitted. And they were like, actually, these are more editorial. In the Midwest, they look for more commercial. So you need to be smiling in this one. The shadow on your face here is kind of distracting. Make sure you have like an even lighting. Your background's too distracting. Posing here, again, I would just push your angles a little more. And he would just like, why was he just reading me down? But these are all things that help me improve. And I was like, oh my God, that was totally like a critique feedback. Like they do not want me. And then he was like, well, I'm going to go ahead and send you some things to look over. And then if that sounds good with you, just get back to me in like this week. And I was like, does that mean I'm signed? And I like showed the email to my partner and he's like, that's a contract. And I was like, does that mean I'm in? And he's like, what do you think that means? I was like, I just don't believe it, you know?
I'm like dumbfounded listening to you.
Yeah. I was like, wait, this crazy. And
so what has your experience been so far, like doing that?
Wow, it is so different from TV. Like, as in, like, I'm broke now. I think I'm more broke than before I started.
You did drive to Cincinnati last week.
Nobody tells you this when you start modeling. If you're not like nepotism or you don't have parents in the industry, it's like really freaking hard. I spend more money on gas transporting myself to shoots because I drive myself. And let me tell you, driving is my #1 fear. Like I fear it worse than death. I would honestly.
As you should, frankly. This is an anti-driving podcast.
This is anti-driving. Where's the subway? You and me need to take some spoons, start digging in this playground, and I think in a few weeks' time we can get something done.
I think so.
And then you also have to pay for your own like skincare, hair care, take good care of yourself in general.
Oh yeah.
All of these things.
Because you can't show up looking raggedy.
Yeah. Well, somewhere, maybe I'm not allowed to talk about that. But basically, like no tattoos, no hair dyes without consulting the agent first, things like that, which is like that's chill.
Are you able to talk about pay at all?
Yeah.
So like when you did this Cincinnati thing, where you also did the content about that really cool Asian snack shop bakery.
Yeah, I just
shop?
went exploring.
How much did you get paid to go over there? So Cincinnati's like an hour and a half away ish.
That one probably, I actually paid them because I needed my digitals refreshed for the spring. And then when they took it, they just took it with a digicam like in the first floor of the office. And I was like, wait, I could have done this at home. But I brought Hanibear shop drawings stuff with me and I drew the agent. And then I was like, can you show me the 2 agents that aren't here today? And she showed me photos and I drew them too. And I was like, one thing about me is I know there's a lot of people in this agency and I am not just a model. I am an artist and I am everything else around it. So I need to use that to help me.
Yeah, you did like a
little bit.
business card
So I
type
was like,
thing.
let me give them something that helps them remember me a little more. And that was my intention. I was like, I know I'm gonna lose money, and I have a feeling this is something I can probably do at home. But it means something to show up face to face with someone.
Mm-hmm.
So
what is it?
it's
But
worth
you said
it.
you've been losing money. Like, what's the average like modeling? Especially, no
Headers
offense,
and
I'm gonna
bags.
call you
No.
low tier model.
That's okay.
What would, regardless of your personal looks,
Mhm.
like what's your like average like take home for like a gig?
It really depends. Like, cause then the agency takes a cut. What do I walk away with? Like one time it was like $50 in a dream. I was like, cause gas prices are so bad right now. So I was like, oh shoot.
It costs $50 to drive to Cincinnati, which is what you said.
$400. I'm so excited. And then agency takes their 20%. That becomes $270 or not. I'm not doing the math right.
Yeah.
It becomes something else. Gas. I bought myself lunch. That was my own decision. And then all these things. But I will say the thing that you might think of when you say modeling is like runway. And
Yeah.
then runway is very restrictive. And then I'm going to be so blunt. It's terrible about like eating disorders and like shaping the kind of person you are. And I'm very defiant in the sense that I love that drag. You see every type of body and every type of person, and you can't Bella Hadid me. I'm sorry, it's not gonna happen. I love my individuality a lot, and I guess where was I going with this? All that to say, like, you think runway is the main modeling industry, but actually, the main industry is commercial.
Yeah. Like
Because
the photos at Target or whatever.
The photos at Target. If these cars driving by, there's a photo somewhere on there. My first like shoot that I ever got booked for that I just posted was for like Ohio School of Health Sciences. So they had me pose as a student, and then they had me switch places with the other actors and had me pose as a health
I think I saw you post that
student
actually.
with like a lab coat. So I sent that photo to my dad. I was like, he never pressured me to be a doctor, by the way. That is not something he ever did.
The stereotype didn't
yeah,
last.
but I sent him a photo and I was like, this is what I would have looked like as a doctor. That's the fun
What was
part
his
of
reply?
modeling. And he was like, LOL. I was like, thanks, Dad.
He's like, that
Thanks.
would never would have happened.
Yeah. And I think because my dad never pressured me, both my parents, I think they were proud to have a creative child. And even though I don't talk to my mom anymore, like that's something I'm very grateful to them for, because I graduated at 16 from high school, got my associates at 17.
16 in high school.
Got my bachelor's in film at 19.
Are you a genius?
I don't
You're
think
20 years
so.
old now.
Yeah, I don't really think so, because I'm gonna be pretty honest with you. I was pretty behind in class, and then like in AP and honors classes, kids get really freaking competitive.
Yeah.
But I think because I took the pressure off myself, and I've grappled with like death anxiety since I was a little kid, and so I've always been able to take a step back and be like, I think when I'm 40, I'm not gonna care if I pass this test or not. I'm just gonna care if I finish the job and graduate. And so kids in the class would be like, I got a 99.9. What'd you get? 99.8. Oof, you're basically like set up for failure. And then they'd be like, Hang, what'd you
That's
get?
so
And I'd be
real.
like, a 70. And they're like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. I'm like, no, it's okay. I'm glad I passed. I was just always happy to like make it. And I think that consistency, and then just understanding like I'm just here to learn what I can. I'm not going to remember everything, but it's going to be okay. Like I'm not going to die. I walked away from graduation with like so many cords that like it was getting tangled with what I walk. It was like weighing my shoulders down. It's just to say, like, take the pressure off of yourself. It's never that serious. Nothing's that serious.
Hard. You remember when you were like a kid and like, I don't know if you had the experience, but I did. Whereas like, have you ever heard the term like your permanent record? It's like, oh, I got detention, so now it's on my permanent record. It's like, oh, the dude when you're like 35 years old hiring you at the library is gonna
He
be
does
like,
not care.
He's like, oh, you got detention when you were 16. Die.
Yeah, I think my teachers saw that in me too, because there were a lot of times where I like probably should have been failed in a way. Like math was not a good subject. I always stayed for like an hour after class, and my teacher would try to help me, and she'd be like, did you get that? I'd be like, not at all. And I was so close to like failing her class, but I was like, can I please? I was like, I really want this honor cord. I'm very competitive still. It's like, I don't care, but I also do care a lot. So I was like, oh, I just need like one more point to push my GPA over to get the honor cord. But I totally understand. I was like, I'll do another assignment. I'll retake a test. Like, I'll do something. And she was like, well, you would have showed up to class this day, and I assume you would have gotten it right. And so she pushed me just that little bump. But like so many, I think they saw that I really was trying. I don't think I naturally have it like that, but I have a work ethic, and then I'm very good about not giving up.
Yeah.
I was like, one thing about me is to always be done. Like, even if my homework was completely wrong, I would finish it. But then when they correct me, that's like, you learn faster that way. I don't know how to explain it. Just getting it done versus if I never touched anything at all, I fell behind and I just gave up on everything, then I wouldn't have learned anything.
Agreed. Totally. That's like in the start of the podcast, I would write like production notes. Like, oh, here's what I did wrong in this production. So I'll do it correctly next time.
Isn't that better than if you just said, I'm not ready to do it, and you never produced it?
100%. People always ask, like, how do you do a podcast? I would just like, you just have to do it.
Just do. Simple.
Content creation. We're creating content right now. I have really enjoyed watching your reels. First of all, you start most of your reels with, hello, I'm a starving artist, which I have learned in this conversation that is true.
Not for long.
Do, as you say. And then also there's where you're often showing off, like, you're doing a little bit of content creation, but you're also doing a lot of like gender existence content. And then there's also like a little bit of art also, or like, I guess when I watch your YouTube, you're also doing like K-pop dances, which I thought was funny. So like, what do you think about your own content? Like, what are you out here doing?
I do everything. Like, it's a great way to blend my passions. The show I'm working on right now, that's hopefully going to be released either like soon or near this episode's timing, is Drag Digest. And it's a series of interviews at restaurants with drag performers. And then we go off to a studio space and they teach me a new skill every episode. And the point is to show that like you can start from ground zero, know nothing. And if you just physically put yourself in the space and do it, you're just going to get better. You don't have to be exceptional every time you practice. But if you're just putting yourself out there, it's going to happen. And the reason I did like a restaurant style format interview is because I'm really inspired by Mythical Kitchen, Josh Scherer's Last Meals series, because he's so well researched. And I think you can see celebrities start to understand it's not a media appearance, it's like a real conversation. And food reveals a lot about someone's emotions and like nostalgic and what they're attached to. And like, food is the first ground of getting people to open up. You see a lot of people with racist attitudes. I see the most racist people go ham at like a margarita and taco night. Make it make sense. So I still don't think
that's like the common thing my wife and I always talk about is like every town has like the Mexican restaurant that they love, even though they're like also advocating for the deportation of those people. It's like you're messed up in the mind.
So we haven't fully bridged the gap yet, but it's the first step, and it's the first thing that you can call out and be like, why can you literally eat our culture and not love us back?
Banger.
And it's going to start with food and conversation. And so I'm really excited for what Drag Digest is going to do.
Speaking of Last Meals, I watched his recent interview with Alton Brown.
Oh man, I cried.
Oh, you actually cried? I don't cry very often, so like
it's really easy to make me cry actually.
But I did like nearly shed a tear because I was like, this is like the most beautiful like soft boy conversation of all time. It's like two dudes who have weird parental relationships, who have like loosely traumatized or actually traumatizing childhoods, eating foods that remind them of childhood the entire time.
Yeah.
And I was like, this is like really beautiful. And like Alton Brown is like such a compelling individual.
I grew up with like his TV series.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
Wow, I'm really excited for that. So what's it called? Drag
Digest.
Drag Digest, which is I see the
play
double
on words,
entendre
little
there.
play on words.
Who's the first one you're releasing with?
Cici Passion from the Indie Drag Theater. So she just played Anne Boleyn in 6, and she's a trans woman and drag queen, and it's super cool You'll have to watch that episode to see those conversations.
Absolutely. Oh yeah.
But
Plug.
working on it with Jay Griot, who was just on here, Cecilia Gomez, and Nico, and they're amazing people. We are trying to secure grant funding for the episode because I'm like, I want to pay them. I want to pay Cece for her time.
Mm-hmm.
And I also want to show, like, anytime social change happens is for economic reasons before it ever is for the good of the heart. Because if it was for the good of the heart, we wouldn't even be here. And so showing, like, people are willing to put their money behind a message like this is the first step to making political change. I'm not the best at, like, history and policy and understanding everything. Like, I'm very much the type that's still learning and listening to everybody. Like, and I'm in a stupid, silly, fake mustache, and like,
I think you.
My brows are glued to the back of my forehead.
Wait,
so like, I'm
can
not.
You pull your hair back. Can I see?
There's
really
like
are.
the brow that's drawn over the other brow that's been baked in. So I'm not really the person you should go to for like your political and moral advice, but I do want to help in that way, and I think performance and the work you put out there is always part of resilience.
Beautiful. Shout out to Jay Griot always.
If Jay ever gets into drag,
I feel like thing is like, I always like the word term. So there's king, queen, and themperor.
Themperor. I like that too.
So rather than like, obviously the gender terms of king and queen, you have the still a honorific, but
hello, my monarch.
What's up, my monarch? Have you ever heard the term? So you said chat earlier.
Mm-hmm.
So like saying, hey chat, as like just addressing people as an excellent, like, I think they said it's like an excellent, like, non-gendered, like, y'all, basically, in a way.
It's also like a thing that like Gen Z and millennials do of like, we're addressing like a third, it's almost like a third gender. I don't know. It's like a third pronoun that doesn't exist because who is chat? Like, who are you talking to?
It's like a fourth gender in a way where it's like non-existent, like it's an ethereal other, but also non-gendered. It's a really interesting like phenomena that's just spread out of the internet, basically. Are you in school right now?
No, I'm not. So, like I said before, I got my bachelor's when I was 19.
That's okay.
In film and video.
This is where the you're a genius came from. So, like, your existence right now is modeling, content creation, and doing drag and like existing.
And it looks really cool on social media. And I trust me, like, I'm very grateful for this job.
Mm-hmm.
But it's like, if I scrounge together all these really cool jobs, I might just be able to barely make rent. And that's really cool to me. I have tried to apply before for like, actually, like this past few weeks, my partner and I both applied for Can. Like, I went in for my interview and then they went in right after me. And I like looked at them like as we were crossing paths and I was like, I hope they hire you. And then they got the job. But I've been trying to get like a cafe or retail job, and then my friends are like, what are you doing getting a retail job? And I was like, because the hours are consistent. Like, I don't know, like one of my recent like Bottle Works market got rained out, and so that affected like if I was able to make rent or not. I was like just barely made it, and I was like, oh, that was a close call because I'm very dependent on if there's going to be a market this month, and then what's the turnout for that going to be? Like, I didn't know, like, if there's something big like a Colts game in the city, then people won't show up to the market. That affects my income. So yeah, I don't know. What was your original question though? Because I was tying it back to something.
What was my? I basically just made a statement about your existence as a person.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Just like, because, well, I guess, you know what it was? Is that I was like thinking about listening to your videos, and you said I'm a starving artist, and at some point you said I'm a starving student, I think, or like a college student.
Yeah.
And I think maybe I mushed all those timelines together in my mind.
Yeah. If I still pass for a student, that's fire. Because of graduating early, my like Crimson card is still active for like until 2027 or something.
Let's go.
So I've been swiping that hard. I'll be transparent about this. I'm a little embarrassed to admit it, but I think being transparent is important. Like, I'll swipe that at the food pantry. Like, and
I don't think you should be.
I don't know if people will get confused by that because they're like, oh my God, you're modeling. Like, what are you doing at the food pantry? Because I'm going to use this card until the school doesn't let me use it anymore. Like, I need to eat.
Well, there's that. And like, you also have said it explicitly, but people have this perception about modeling, about, you know, my wife's job as a news person, about a lot of jobs that sort of seem glamorous.
Yeah.
But like are realistically just like extremely exploitative and like not high paying at all.
Oh, yeah.
And like, you shouldn't feel shameful about that. We were talking about like the food pantry. I was explaining that when I lived in West Lafayette, I would go volunteer at the food pantry. When you say food pantry, do you mean like a convenience store? Or do you mean like the
our like school campus center? Anybody that's an IU Indianapolis student, your tuition is paying for this. Use that card. Some weeks are kind of hit or miss. Some weeks are really good. Go to Paul's Pantry. It's in the campus center, right where the bathrooms are on the first floor. Use it. You're already paying for it. It's such a good resource.
Facts. But I'm thinking of like a food pantry in terms of like low income type thing. So when we lived in West Lafayette, we would go volunteer at that place. And at some point I was like, oh, I should probably be taking food from here. Because I didn't have a lot of like income at that time. And like, it was really embarrassing. Like, like you said, where it's like, I feel a little weird about it, but it's also like, you got to understand your position in the world. I think sometimes it just like, it shouldn't be embarrassing to know what you need and get it, I think.
Yeah. And like full transparency too is like sometimes the restaurant will trade me food for the video and stuff. Guys, that's how I got through college. Like a lot of times, like, thank you so much. Like to, I almost, is it me like searching for parent figures in like the restaurant owners? Cause I feel like they're taking care of me when they like bring me extra stuff and stuff. Like in particular, like Luz and Omar from Asizo, Aji and Tiwi from Wisanyani Palawan, like
shout out.
Is this a parasocial relationship with them? But I do feel kind of like a loved child when I come there.
They made me feel like both of those couples made me feel like a loved child when I met them. So I totally understand.
Thank you guys for helping feed me through school.
I have one last question and then we'll move on to what I call the canned questions. I just want to thank you for coming on the podcast. Like, it really means a lot to me. And I think people like yourself are under a lot of duress at this time, just in existence. What do you think about like your, like, when it comes to like your personal safety, like putting yourself out there? I am a trans Masc individual, somebody who is genuinely openly targeted by our government, openly targeted by society in some aspects. Like, what is your opinion on like you putting yourself out there in the way that you do? And like, maybe you feel it's brave, maybe you just feel you have to because it's your existence.
I gotta think about this one a little bit. I think it's kind of hard to be transitioning while having a public career. I have been on testosterone for over a year now. I probably started about this time last year. It feels like all my achievements are being co-opted by this girl, and I don't know who she is, and she doesn't exist, because people will be like, oh my God, girl, you're killing it. Or like, so much love. But I went on to something, talked about my trans experience, and then right after I had to correct them because they were using like she in the captions and all of this stuff. And I was like, I just explained all of that to you. That's very frustrating that I had to go and correct it. Every single time someone comes up to me and was like, you're doing so much for women, the way you play with gender. So I'm like, you've seen the videos and you're still calling me a woman. Or they're like, girl power, like, oh my God, like, show those men. And it's like, I'm gonna look and sound completely different in a few years. Show those men. And it's strange. So I just joke, it's like this evil girl that's following me around, and she's taking credit for all my achievements, because who are you talking about? I don't know. But and it's very frustrating, But then I also look at like there's plenty other Asian creators that started, like Freddie Chen, previously known as like Frederick Chen, and they had their whole career online. They've now transitioned to a woman, and like even now their subscribers are still getting used to it. But that's to kind of calm me in my heart and know like I'm 20, I have time. They transitioned later in life, and they're also having to do it with a public audience. Like it's gonna be okay. And it's a little scary. I'm in a stage right now where I can still like pass for like a cisgender girl, and so that's kind of what I put on when I feel really unsafe. Is like I'm just not going to talk about it all. But online, I think real recognize real. Like I hate that like in Indiana I have to explain it so hard and then be like, I love all types of clothing, like feminine, masculine. I was like, clothing is just clothes, you put it on a body. But so that's what kind of confused me on my gender for a long time. But I think inherently, I know deep in my heart it belongs on a Ken doll Barbie. You're wearing a Barbie shirt right now? That's so funny. Because I always tell people like, I know these clothes belong on a Ken's body. So I still want to be perceived as a man wearing these clothes, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And I got a message from a trans man in Vietnam, and he was like, thank you for sharing your video. Like everybody, like trans men, trans women from like different parts of Vietnam that like direct messaged me like, thank you for sharing this. Like the culture in our country right now is changing, but it can still be hard in some areas. And the video makes me feel less alone. And then I messaged one of them. I was like, I don't know why you would ever come to Indiana if you were going to the States, but if you do, I would love to show you my favorite Vietnamese places or like bond and try to talk about experience. And then they responded like, if you come to Vietnam, like same here. I was like, that's so crazy. It's like we're bridging the gap across the sea. I've never been to Vietnam in my life. Any like sort of travel I do is usually sponsored by someone that believes in what I'm doing, which I'm really grateful for. Like I got scholarships to go to Greece. I was able to use some of the excess to go to Colombia, but I still haven't been to Vietnam where like I'm from. But it's cool to know that if I go, I'll have someone there that understands.
Yeah. Gorgeous answer. Thank you for sharing.
Yeah.
We're going to move on to what I call the canned questions, and I have to read. A sponsor. Third Space Indy is sponsored by City Rising. City Rising is a social impact studio. Most recently, they implemented an eviction data dashboard that looks to highlight and reduce the impact of the over 30,000 evictions, mostly affecting Black and Latino women and children in Indianapolis every year. Learn more at cityrising.org. City Rising has sponsored a question, which is, what is a third space to you?
I got to think about this one too.
That's okay.
I knew you were going to ask this too. I was like,
listen to the pod.
What is your answer? Because sometimes that helps me jog like what I want to say.
I'm so deeply ingrained in this conversation that like I am kind of strict about this in a way. Like I really enjoy hearing from other people where it's like
you might be sitting here for like 2 minutes while I think about
No, that's
this.
okay.
I need to like sit in my thoughts.
Some people tell me I should talk more on the podcast, which I disagree with, but
no, if you're a show host, it's the job to listen. 'Cause
Yeah.
I think with Drag Digest, I want to be a listener.
So you asked like what is my answer, and I think like I'm pretty strict. It's like, oh, a third space. I would like read from the book, literally in a way. But to me, like my definition at this time, as I would write on the internet, would be like a third place is somewhere you are not expected to go and spend money, but you feel sorry, let me rephrase. A third place is somewhere that you can go be accepted and there's no expectation of any transaction happening, but more than likely you are happy to spend money there because you feel so accepted being there. That's sort of what I would say. But most of the relationship with the business is emotional. Business or place is emotional rather than transactional. That's how I would say it probably.
I think a third space is where you're third true personality comes out, because the third space implies that there's a personality at work, a personality at home with your family, and then who are you? And I think all three of those are you. But when you unguard yourself and then you liberate yourself, where is your like true personality in between that? Because I think I am still myself, like when I'm at school or work or when I'm at home, but there's certain parts that I kind of withdraw a little bit. Like I'll go home, I've talked about this before, I'll go home and be a daughter for my dad's sake. And if I know I'm never going to see someone again, then I don't really take too much effort to tell them about like my identity or like things that it's just like you choose your battles. But in a third space, like the first time I ever saw a show at Indie Drag Theater, I did not know anyone there. I just sat down like in the kind of front row, and I was already thinking in my head, like, I want to interview Cici Passion because she's Asian and I want to understand her experience better. And she came down from the stage and she like made eye contact with me, and I was in such a bummy outfit. I was like, oh my God, please don't pick me up while you're in full glam. And then she took me up and we were like dancing together at the end of the show. And then I was like, oh my gosh, she held my hands. And even though I didn't know anybody there, they were like, oh, all the drag theater cast and crew come up for a photo, because this was their preview night before the first like public showing. And then I was like, oh, I'm kind of new to this space, so it's not really for me. And then they were like, get in here. I was like, oh, okay. And then everyone was so nice. There's this impression that we see from like reality TV show where like drag queens are catty, and like it's true to an extent. Like it's like performance. It's like that's the space you're in, is like learn to take it and dish it. But also like everybody has their personality outside of drag too. And for some reason I was so scared. I was like, I do not want to be overstepping my boundary here. Like they're performers, so I want to give them their space. I don't want to be like crowding them so much. But they were like introducing themselves and like, hello Lolly and Faith, like thank you for making me feel very welcome here. Because they're like, oh, we're gonna go grab drinks. Do you want to come with us? Give me 2 months, guys. I'll be with you. And like, that's where I felt like my third personality comes out.
Can I shake your hand?
Yes.
Excellent answer. Sorry, that was excellent. I was at dinner, or I guess getting food, maybe not dinner, before Patrick Armstrong's live podcast the other day. And I was with Andrea Watts, good friend of mine, and our other mutual friend. Her name is Jordan Ryan. She's the city archivist. And we were just like having the most raucous laughter in the middle of this very nice like space. Like everyone else was like very quiet, and we were being like like goofy as fuck like in the middle of this like pretty nice restaurant. And like you talk about, and it's less so about the restaurant and more just about like being your true self. Like I think there's a level of like when you're performing, when you're doing content, when you're on a podcast, especially with video, there's this idea of perception and being perceived, versus like existing in space with people you're comfortable with, and being whatever your true self is in that moment. And I think that's like an excellent answer. And I don't know how to say it better than that.
Exactly.
Follow-up question to that question. What is a third space or place that has existed for you previously that no longer does?
I was ready for this one. Okay, I know there were way too many Froyo shops in like the early 2000s,
Okay, facts.
2010s, but we didn't have to get rid of all of them. There's like Yoya, and it's like kind of a drive away from here, but I can't think of like, if you threw Froyo on your menu, that doesn't count. It has to have the handles, and I have to be able to take like an ungodly amount of sample cups. And now there's like more boba shops than Froyo spots.
It's because boba replaced Froyo. I'm so glad you
That's
said
not
that.
even good boba. I'm sorry. Not everyone should put a boba and matcha on your cafe, because a lot of you guys are kind of bad at it. That's another thing, hot take with Indianapolis, is like a lot of places in here are just okay. And it's okay to say that. It's okay to say that. But I need a good Froyo place to open up downtown where I can pull the handles and I can be like disappointed by how much I put in my cup and it weighs like $20 and I just got to pay for it and finish it.
That is like the phenomena of like 2013, 2012 Froyo shops everywhere. And then also, like you said, putting too much Froyo in the cup and then just like smothering it in chocolate sauce and M&Ms or something.
And you're not thinking about it and you set it on and that thing costs you like $35.
Yeah. That's so funny. So like, do you have like a specific memory with Froyo? Like, was there like going out with friends or like, I feel like, so in Louisville, Kentucky, where I'm from, that's where we would go. There's a road called Bardstown Road, which is like was and still to an extent is like the hip road. It's kind of in a way kind of like what our Broad Ripple used to be. And just like I just have memories of like going to Qdoba and then going to the Froyo shop in high school or whatever. Did you have something like that?
I'll paint you a kind of picture. So when I say that I went to Fishers High School, people freak out. And I think I need to remember that like there was a time when my dad, sister, and I would all share this open sleeping bag. So we unzipped it and the three of us would sleep there. And then we had like a dollhouse that he found off of like Facebook Marketplace or garage sale. And then that was like the main setup in our house for like entertainment was like go to school, play with the dollhouse, sleep on the sleeping bag, repeat. And then we had 3 key bank bags of clothes, like one for my sister, my dad, and me. That was our whole wardrobe, was those 3 bags. And I still think of it as a fun childhood memory because my dad would just walk us to a bunch of different places. Like he would walk us to the library. And then another place that he would take us that was really special was Orange Leaf.
Yep.
Do you know about Orange Leaf? Like,
yeah, it was like a big chain Froyo place.
Oh
right?
yeah. And Asian families love like taking home the spoons. Those spoons are like colorful and durable and like kind of fun. And
the
so
tiny spoons?
the colorful like Froyo spoons. They're like kind of good for
not
reusing.
tiny.
Yeah, they're like normal
big.
size.
Normal size spoons.
Yeah,
okay.
like the
but they were like a
Menchies
thicker
or-
plastic.
They're like a thicker plastic,
Yeah.
and so we'd grab a bunch of those and like live off those, and like it's such a good memory. And I'm like, I know that setting my cup down like made my dad's pockets hurt, but it was such a fun memory. It's just my sister and I going crazy, like
That's
being
so
annoying
funny.
kids.
Yeah, I feel like like the thing about like Froyo being like self-serve and them just like letting you spend like $40 on a single cup is so silly.
That's maybe why it went away. That's why we can't have nice things. But I want the experience again.
I think Froyo's kind of gross.
What? It's like the best.
I'm an
one.
ice cream purist. That's why I really like Lick. They have excellent ice cream at Lick. Like they make that for real. And I can tell when a place does not make their ice cream.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I think some places it doesn't even count as ice cream. There's like a butter fat, milk fat percentage, and then it's like dairy product. I don't care. Give me the dairy product.
Oh,
I don't know what's
no.
in that. It's good. I like it.
That's crazy.
It's my favorite.
Every episode, I ask a question from the previous guest.
All right.
The previous guest for this episode is Hannah Hadley, the individual who runs...
From an indie game market.
I mentioned that earlier.
Yes. Super fun.
Runs the indie gay market.
Hannah, what do you got for me?
Hannah Hadley asks, what is a skill you had to go outside to learn? Most recently.
Most recently, drag.
Oh, that's...
Yeah.
I really want you to talk more about like... So you mentioned performing. Like, what is it like to perform drag for you?
It's like a dumpster fire. How do I explain this? So let me think about how to phrase this. So much of like the modeling, acting, and performing industry is actually a humiliation ritual. you go into an audition and you're like standing like this close to someone, and they're like, their job is very important. Like, I don't know what they do or their name, but I know from the way they're sitting, this is a very important person. Or it's just like, they're very, but at the same time in the local scene, people are like very casual and nice. I think almost the more comfortable someone is with themselves, the more important I find out their job title is. I feel like it's the most chill people that have the most insane jobs. And then the people that tend to talk a lot is usually like, they're not a great person.
There's a similar phenomena in, this is gonna nerd shit, in video games, like in competitive video games, they always say like people who are really good are kind of dicks, like, but they're not good to be the best. Like the people just below the best level think they're hot shit, but they can't actually achieve the highest level, but they think they're good. But the people at the tippy top are like always like super chill and like relaxed about it, because it's like, I don't know, most of the time, similar concept.
So I threw myself into this industry, and then like on certain casting forums, they'll ask like, do you know how to do teleprompter? And I was like, well, we're gonna learn. So thank you to Kiowa modeling coach. She taught me how to like learn the teleprompter that like newscasters do.
Yep.
And she said like out of all the things so I did like the modeling classes with her, and like out of all the things that she showed me, she said I did the best on the teleprompter. And I think it's because of doing voiceovers and like making videos and stuff. But I'm like, I'm starting from ground zero. They were like, do you know how to do a walk? And I'm like, I will know by the time I show up to this shoot. Like I will learn it. That's the thing about the industry, is like you have to say yes, and then it pushes you to learn these skills faster. There's an accountability to it.
There's a through line with you, which is just like, you're like very Nike, like just do it. Like you're, you're just like, I am. All right, what is your like, mentality about like failure?
Just do it again. You need more failures. You need to eat failures for breakfast. Like get comfortable with it. There's so many people that I'll notice in the audition room where maybe it's because they've been doing performing arts their entire life ground up, and they've had this insane pressure on their shoulders, and they're incredible performers. They're like leagues above me. Oh my God. But I think that kind of becomes part of what holds them back a little bit, because you're scared that like if you don't get this audition, it says something about your character because you have all this talent that you've poured into something. It doesn't. A lot of times casting is just a puzzle piece. It might not be, because you could have been the most talented person in that room and they won't cast you just because of the chemistry with the other people for this project. And so I just think about it like, it doesn't matter. It doesn't say anything about me. I just need to get more reps in. I am on my like 24th audition, and I've had so many like crazy audition stories. Like I auditioned for the Fever Inferno team, like the dance team that comes out during halftime. And the best dancers in Indianapolis show up to that audition room. And I've already lost the choreo by like the 30-minute mark. Like I'm just flopping my arms around, and like I was like, but the one thing I cannot do during this audition is go sit down, because I did see like maybe 2 or 3 people get overwhelmed and they just left. I cannot do that. No matter what, I have to stay up here and I have to move. And then they called me up for my audition. It was like every single process of this, I wanted to throw up. I was sitting at Gainbridge and like looking down the street, and I was like, my car is parked over there. I could slip out this door right now. I could call for a bathroom break and run back to my car, and I wouldn't say anything because there's so many people here. And I was like, nope, go up there. And people were being so nice about it. They're like, you're gonna do great. And I'm like, I don't think you're ready. I hit like a something. I could tell it was really bad, but I held it and I kept my energy up. So I sat back down, and one of my friends was like, at least you moved. And I was like, at least I moved. And I just do that to throw yourself into a space and get used to the water, because the water's not going to get any warmer the longer you wait to jump into it. You just have to go. So I do that, and then take a step back. Acting is playing pretend. It's not that serious. Nothing about this industry is like that serious. We're all pretending to have a role, and then you just take what you can learn from that and then do it again 10 times over. And so I did that with drag. The first episode with Cece, which you'll see, is like I was in these crazy heels, and I wasn't particularly interested in girlhood as much as a kid. So heels, makeup was not my thing. But then I see artists like Gottmik and Ciara Mist and stuff play with like makeup and gender in such a fun way where I was like, I'm gonna learn it and I'm gonna learn it now. And it's just the more you do something, you're just gonna get better.
Excellent. What 2 last questions. What do you want out of life?
I want to be hot, rich, and famous and never work a day again. No. Hey!
You've already got like
My-
half of those.
My real answer, I have a lot of people that sometimes size me up or kind of discredit me because my follower account isn't super high, which is like a really weird mindset that people have. It's really strange. I don't think that's like a measurement for how much you should respect someone, but like
Let me tell you about my brain chemistry. I've decided that if anyone likes you, like imagine walking out into the street and you say something and 10 people walk up to you and shake your hand because they liked it.
Thank you.
No,
Thank
like
you.
that's how it's like. If you get 10 likes on a post, like that's impressive. That means
Shout out to my 10 people.
I'm not even like if you were to walk out in the street in the middle of downtown in Memorial Circle and you said something and 10 people walked up, shake your hand, give you a high five, you would feel amazing for the whole day. And I feel like if you're getting 10 likes on a post, you should feel like a god.
I'm such a big celebrator of all my achievements, no matter how small. It truly doesn't matter to me. There's a lot of people that are like, oh, it's never enough. It's never enough. I want more. And wanting more is what is going to make you even better. And like, I have that competitive spirit for sure. But at the same time, like, I'm so happy. I'm just happy to be here. Like, I think you probably saw this attitude like through high school too of like, I got to see, I'm just happy I made it. I played a like extra in a commercial with Caitlin Clark and I didn't even make it into the shot. I was like kind of subtly, not trying to be annoying about it, but I was trying to like kind of make sure I get into a shot and then I didn't even make it into it. But I'm just happy I was there and I'm just happy I got to see like what a commercial looks like. That was fun.
Yeah.
You know, if experience is the goal, then you're always going to win and you're just always going to be happy. I think I've gotten to experience so many wonderful things that people might not even get to experience in their lifetime despite having like a bigger audience than me and things like that. Because like I'm rich in a sense. Don't fact check that, but like I'm rich in the sense that like look at this pretty park that we have around us. I'm rich in the sense that like I have really amazing friends and they take efforts to stay in touch with me. I have teachers that take efforts to stay in touch with me. That makes me really freaking rich.
Facts.
So I'm so excited. Like anytime, no matter how small or how big of an opportunity, like I'm rich for that. That's so cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Gorgeous answer. What did you mentioned? Oh, being in a commercial. So I was in Alexa Adamson did at Alley Cat Ceramics did a thing with the Fever for like a small business like grant that they're doing, and they had like Freddie Fever and their whole like media team come out to do a recording, and I was there as like quote unquote an extra, and like they published the video and it's like my leg. Have you ever seen SpongeBob where it's like
my leg
or no, it's more like he's like I was in the commercial and it's like SpongeBob's hat in the background. That's how I felt. I was like, oh, there's my leg.
That's
like,
the fun weird part of commercial modeling is I saw a girl post a video of like, I don't know if anyone's been to Chili's recently, but I was the hand that dipped the mozzarella stick in the menu. Right. Like commercial modeling has so many little random jobs like that. Like I'm in some random brochure. I'm in someone's work training video. and that's something I think about. Like if I ever have the privilege of making it big someday, it's like someone's going to have their work training and I'm in the manual video on these like random jobs because I really am the person that will say yes to anything. Like quite literally anything.
One last question. I think you know what it is. What question would you like to ask the next Third Space Indy guest?
Need another 2 minutes for this. Thank you, too.
You prepped for one of the questions.
I prepped for the Froyo one really hard because I was like, what's a third space that doesn't exist? I could go like, there's probably a deeper answer to this. I think the deeper answer to like a third space I miss is like the childhood home I grew up in, which my dad kind of felt ashamed about because he was like, it's small. But I was like, I think it was a nice home, and I think he did the best he could in it. And that's a place I can't go about. I thought about it. I was like, I could knock on their door and be like, I used to live here and I'm really attached to this home. Would you mind if I just like step in there? Just let me take a look around. I want to go to where my room was. That's such a weird thing. That'll get you kicked out immediately. Or like something deep like that. But I was like, no, I really miss a Froyo place.
That's respectable.
What do I want to ask someone else? Genuinely, give me 2 minutes. Do you know who's going to come on next?
I do, and I will not tell you.
Why?
Just in case they cancel. No, I've had it happen before.
Aw. I think my question for the next guest is, why would you be your own enemy? And what I mean by that is like,
So good. Sorry.
this industry I recognize is going to be brutal. And I realize that, like, no matter how optimistic I am, I realize the deeper I go into this industry, it's going to be an uphill climb. And it's going to be so brutal. But I also know there's a casting director out there that's looking for a Vietnamese trans masculine person, because for a long time I was running through auditions like, I should just audition for girl parts. And then you realize, and it's not a dig or anything, just how it is. There's a lot of girls in theater. And then by standing strong in my identity, like, that is how you get cast, and that's how people remember you. Because then people would, I feel like I've been to so many auditions now where they're starting to remember me, which I don't know if it's a good or a bad thing. I'm like, man, this kid again.
They're back again.
And one thing, I don't know if you want to include this in the show or not. Another thing I've learned through this industry is like, there's been so many times I'll do an audition and the panel's like eating it up and they're like loving me down and they're like, oh my gosh, like I heard someone mutter one time, like, they would play a good Gretchen or Regina, like Regina George from Mean Girls. Oh my gosh, that's a dream role. Or like they're hyping me up and then you don't get cast. There was one audition where they looked like they hated me. Like I sang that piece. Theater's a great humiliation ritual if you want to build confidence to anything. Like that's the best way to build tolerance for these type of things. They looked like they wanted me to burn and die, like their face. And then I got cast as a lead. So come see me play Jay in Carmel Community Players Descendants. Hi directors, Tanya and Sam. I know you guys are very sweet now, but I just have a lot of anxiety and I just thought you guys hated my audition. And I was like, they made me a lead and not just a lead, like a masculine character. My character has like a lot of raps in the show. He has like, this is something that I kind of want to talk about that I think would be fun to include.
I don't have to. Yeah, we can
however
keep
you
going.
edit this, but
It's all in order.
something I love about playing my role as Jay in Descendants is like, did you grow up on the Descendants movies?
No.
Okay.
I have no
So
concept of this.
Disney's Descendants is a spin-off of like the classic Disney fairy tales. And so it's like the 4 kids of Disney villains go to like Oregon prep school. And then it's like a chance for them to have a chance at being good and being redeemed.
Yes, I remember this.
And my character is the son of Jafar. And I kind of love
Their name is
playing.
Jay?
Yeah, their name is Jay.
Jafar. I see it.
Jafar.
Yeah.
My favorite part of my character is it is so fun to play a villain. And there's so many scenes, like this show is so unserious. It's not like I'm going to pull away a deeper contextual meaning of how it relates to my transness, but the show is so like silly, stupid. It's Disney. Have fun. But all the kids will be chanting like, these evil kids have got to go. And I'm like, this is genuinely what some of you Republican senators sound like to me, beefing with a kid. And I love it. It makes me thrive in my character because my character's like very fun and confident, and like I get to have all these like fun solo moments in the show and soak it all up. And I love being an antagonist. I think I would not have as much fun playing like a good character versus just a bad character. I love villains that take up space on the stage and they just have so much presence, and they're probably terrible people. Like I wouldn't want to be friends with a villain in real life, but they are so fun to watch in a movie. That's like a sign an actor is incredible. I love it. I'm thriving in that space. Why are you being an enemy to yourself? Because in this industry, there's going to be so many people that are going to beat you down. There's going to be so many comments about your body, your skin, who you are, your race, everything. They say like, oh, this type of actor, you can't become a model. You don't look like a high fashion model. That's too bad, baby. It's so fun to be who you are. And like, if there's going to be a million people in this industry that are going to try to make me be feeling small, I am not going to be one of them. Okay, I'm rooting for myself all the way there. No matter how many skills I'm missing, I will learn and pick them up. I will go as I go. And like, no one in this industry is going to be able to make me feel small.
I don't know how to do anything other than end on that.
Right.
So just to wrap it up, though, the question is, why would you be your own enemy?
Why would you be your own enemy? Cheer for yourself.
Let's go.
Yeah.
Hang, if you want to be found, where can the people find you on the internet?
Okay.
Hopefully not in real life.
Come see Disney's Descendants at Carmel Community Players in June. Come find me on. You can come see Carmel Community Players Disney's Descendants on the weekend of the 12th to 14th of June, or the weekend of the 18th through 21st. Okay.
So this is coming out on the 15th. So this coming weekend. We have shows. You can go online to find the tickets all weekend long. Come see the show. You can find me on socials. Please subscribe to the YouTube. Subscribe to the YouTube so I can quit my job. I don't even have a job. Subscribe to YouTube so I can be never working a day in my life again. What's the YouTube?
Hang Homai. So HANGHOAMAI. If you give them the link tree, it'll take them to everywhere. Watch the first episode of Drag Digest, which will hopefully be out by the time this episode airs.
Also on Hang Homai.
Yeah.
Amazing. Anywhere else? Anything else to plug?
All the socials, Instagram, TikTok, everywhere, but especially the YouTube. I have a dream of quitting short form content. I don't like what it's done to like our brains. I don't like how it compresses stories. If you tried to compress this whole thing in 30 seconds, it'd be miserable.
Did you see, so I do a food show with Amanda Gibson. Amanda and
I
Indy.
love Amanda.
And someone commented on one of our clips. They were like, hey, I tried to watch this, but it was an hour long. That's too long. Can you cut it down to 15 minutes?
You all need to learn how to absorb long form content. Put on a podcast, put on a movie. Nowadays, watching a movie to completion without checking your phone does feel low-key productive. But you need to learn how to do that, because I'm not going to be on short form much longer. I want to make long videos. I want to get to really show my personality and be able to tell people stories.
Facts. Hey, thanks so much for watching or listening to this episode of Third Space Indy. You can find me by going to Third Space Indy on Instagram, or by going to thirdspaceindy.com, where I write a blog and release it with the show notes. Thanks so much to City Rising for sponsoring the podcast, and thank you so much to Proformus. Proformus is an urban planning and design firm that helps neighbors and communities shape the places they already love. Based in Indianapolis, they're here to help you make your place happen, one block at a time. Thank you to Proformus. And as always, thank you to the local artist Jennison for letting me use your song, Scared Rabbit, as the intro song to the podcast. Thank you once again for listening, and see you in the next one. Goodbye.